When Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine in 2022, he planned for a three-day war to capture the capital of Kyiv. Now, with the fighting having entered a third year as the backdrop, Russia is in the midst of holding its three-day presidential election. But do not be fooled by the fact that votes are being cast. It's a foregone conclusion that Putin will win and remain in power for another six-year term because this Russian election is neither free nor fair. And when Putin declares victory, it will mean that he remains in power until at least 2030, giving him 3 full decades at Russia's helm. It's important to note that the post-Soviet Union Russia Constitution, which passed in 1993, did have presidential term limits, 2 consecutive 4-year terms, which is why in 2008, after having already served 2 consecutive 4-year terms, Putin gave up the Russian presidency and became the country's prime minister. However, he still ran the country, pulling the strings of what many say was a puppet president, Dmitry Medvedev. Putin returned to the presidency in 2012, but only after Medvedev increased the length of the presidential term from 4 years to 6 years, just in time for Putin to come back to power. Then in 2020, Putin rammed through a package of constitutional amendments, 206 to be exact, and buried inside was a provision that essentially reset his term limits, granting him the right to serve 2 more consecutive terms as Russia's leader, allowing Putin to stay in power until 2036. And while the election is neither free nor fair, there are other candidates running against Putin on the ballot. They are all approved by the Kremlin, and they don't criticize Putin or the war in Ukraine. One presidential hopeful, Boris Nadezhdy, is a member of parliament. He'd been critical of the war in Ukraine and was then barred by the Kremlin from appearing on the ballot. Other dissidents have faced much worse. Just last month, Alexei Navalny, Putin's chief political opponent for about a decade, died in a Russian prison north of the Arctic Circle. And writing from a Siberian prison in his latest piece for the Washington Post, the Russian opposition politician Vladimir Kara-Murza argues that these violations of Russia's own constitution are reason for the world's democracies to reject and not recognize Putin's victory. Kara-Murza was arrested in April of 2022, the day after he appeared on this very program for daring to speak out against Putin and his invasion of Ukraine, including calling it a war, something that is illegal to do in Russia. I was in Ukraine at the time, covering the war, when I spoke to Kara-Murza, and I asked him if he was worried about returning to Moscow after being so outspoken about the war and about the Russian government.
We all know the price, we all know the cost, but we also know that there are millions of people in Russia who categorically oppose Putin regime and everything it's doing, both in terms of domestic repression and in terms of external aggression. We know that there are many people in Russia who want our country to be a normal, modern, democratic European state. I think it would be very demoralizing if those of us who are sort of the public faces of the pro-democracy movement, of the opposition movement, would all just leave the country. I do not, condemn anybody. It's everybody's personal decision. But if you're asking about me, I'm a Russian politician. Russia is my country. Russia is my home. And this is where I have to be.
I'm worried for you, my friend. You have been a source of my information for many, many years, so I'll worry on your behalf. Vladimir Kara-Murza has since been sentenced to 25 years in prison on charges that include treason and speaking out against Putin's war in Ukraine. He now suffers from multiple health issues. Before his imprisonment, the Kremlin had poisoned him 2 times, and he survived. Despite being in prison, Kara-Murza has remained defiant and critical as ever of the Russian government. In that same piece, which was written from the special regime prison colony number 7 in Omsk, Russia, Kara-Murza writes, quote, "Western leaders often speak of their determination to stand up to the Kremlin. Sometimes the most powerful tool of all is simply telling the truth. Putin is not a legitimately elected president. He is a dictator and a usurper. It's time the free world finally said so," end quote. Joining me now, Evgenia Kara-Murza. She's a human rights activist and advocacy director for the Free Russia Foundation and the wife of Vladimir Kara-Murza. Evgenia, it is good to see you again. Thank you for being with us.
It's good to see you too. Thank you very much for having me here.
Let's start with what Vladimir is calling for from his jail cell. Tomorrow, probably, Vladimir Putin will declare victory in the election. What do you and Vladimir Kara-Murza think that the U.S. and the world's democracies should do? Well, how should they react to that?
Well, I believe I completely support my husband in his opinion that Vladimir Putin should be declared illegitimate. And there are very clear legal grounds for doing that. And beside everything that my husband wrote about in this article in the Washington Post, there is also the fact that these so-called elections will be held on occupied Ukrainian territories, where people are basically forced to accept the Russian citizenship in exchange for humanitarian aid or medication. No such procedure can be accepted by the free world as a legitimate procedure, and no such so-called leader elected through this procedure can be seen as a legitimate partner on the international arena. And I believe, yes, it is high time that the free world said so.
You know, Vladimir and I, for years, have discussed this, and you have, this idea of what Vladimir Putin is already a pariah on the global stage. What is it that the rest of the world can do, the outside world, to get to him?
Continue, just living what they preach. The value of human life, democratic principles, standing together with those who fight despotic regimes around the world. This is what can be done. Vladimir Putin needs to be stopped. It is absolutely clear that for as long as he's allowed to remain in the Kremlin, warmongering will continue and repression in Russia will continue as well. And we know that according to a recent independent media investigation, since 2018, at least 116,000 Russians have been subject to direct repression through administrative or criminal cases, which means that in Vladimir Putin's last term alone, there have been more political persecution and more political trials than during the era of Khrushchev and Brezhnev combined.
And as we know, the success rate of those prosecutions is somewhere upward of 97% or something like that. Evgeny, in the introduction, we went through the ways in which Vladimir Putin has been able to secure his 3-decade rule in Russia. All the while, people got the chance to vote, despite democratic principles slowly slipping away. Many people looking at Russia from the outside might not realize that just because civilians can vote does not mean elections are free and fair. What is it that you have to tell the world about Russian elections?
Last time there was a free but not fair election held in Russia, and that's according to international organizations, was in 2003. Since then, every election in Russia has been stolen. And we see the reaction of Russian citizens during this so-called election, when people are pouring paint and ink in ballot boxes, when they're throwing Molotov cocktails at polling stations. And of course, one can say that these are absolutely pointless acts because they end up in criminal prosecution and these people will probably end up behind bars. But it also shows how completely enraged many Russian citizens are about being lied to and completely ignored through the years. And I also know that tomorrow, Russian pro-democracy and anti-war forces are calling for Russian citizens to go to polling stations at noon around the world, and in Russia included. And I know that the Moscow prosecutor's office already declared that voting at noon on the 17th of March will be seen as a criminal act and will be followed by criminal prosecution because it will be seen as a participation in an unauthorized rally.
Evgeny, I have to ask you, our mutual friend Bill Browder wrote about this in Time magazine about a dinner that you and Vladimir and Bill and his wife had in London before Vladimir left for Moscow, in which Bill asked him not to go and worried about his safety, as many of us did. This is very hard for you. You're very brave, but this is hard. You've got a mission and you've got a husband in jail. We've just seen what Yulia Navalny has gone through. Tell me about you and how you're doing through this.
I believe that, I've lived with my husband for 20 years. I share his views and opinions about Russia. I share his vision about Russia's future. And that is a beautiful vision. That is a vision where Russia will become a democracy that will respect the rights and freedoms of its own citizens and live in peace with its neighbors. And that is the Russia that my husband is fighting for. That is the Russia that Alexei Navalny was fighting for, and so many of my colleagues and people in Russia are fighting for. So I believe that now the best thing I can do for my husband is to stand with him and continue his work as best I can. And also it is my duty as a Russian citizen, because I am devastated by the aggression against Ukraine that has been ongoing for 2 years already. I am devastated by the fact that our country is in the hands of a usurper and a wanted criminal. Vladimir Putin is wanted by the ICC for kidnapping Ukrainian kids. And this person, a usurper, a dictator, is subjecting the Russian population to absolutely atrocious repression. So yes, it is my duty to fight against this, to do the best I can.
Evgenia, thank you, as always, for being with us. Thank you for giving us the closest thing we've got to a very clear inside look about the repression and the lack of democracy that exists in Russia. Evgenia Kara-Murza is the wife of the Russian opposition politician Vladimir Kara-Murza. She is a human rights activist and the advocacy director of the Free Russia Foundation.